Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about not covering your tracks. What do I mean by that? I came across this idea of not covering your tracks because what we do is if we're in a cubicle or a stall and we have a misfire, we'll want to cover it up by flushing so that it appears to everyone who's outside in the toilets or in the changing rooms, it appears to them that we must have done something because we've flushed the toilet. And I came across this technique of not flushing, and it seems counterintuitive and it goes against what you instinctively want to do, but it brings about this less of a need to keep it secret, because one of the things that gives the paruresis its power is the need to cover it up. We don't want anyone to know about it, and we feel like we need to keep it a secret. So we have a fear that people will find out. And that's why we cover our tracks, because we don't want no one to know, because we feel like it's a weakness and that there's danger in other people finding out. But the very fact that we want to keep it a secret gives it the power. And by not covering your tracks anymore, by not flushing, you're leaving the door open for people to think what was going on in there. But that's the thing, because I've never been asked, what were you doing in there? I started doing this when I was at work. I'd go to the toilets, and I remember one day actually when I first did this, and there was things going on in my life. I was worried about something, and whenever I'm worrying about something I get anxious. And so anyway, I went into the toilets, there was somebody there, and got into a cubicle, and I wasn't able to pee because this was like a tough guy who was in the changing rooms. He was like real, like, you know, muscly, because I used to work in the gym. He was like quite a tough guy, or I thought he was a tough guy. So I couldn't pee, and I thought, right, you know what, I'm not even gonna flush. I came out of there, didn't flush, and I went out of the changing rooms, and I felt better because it was a bit disheartening having not peed, but I felt bolder, braver, more kind of courageous. So that's what I did. I made this commitment to not flushing. They don't know what you were doing in there. They don't know if you were checking out something on your phone, or you changed your mind, you decided, no, maybe I don't need a pee, or maybe I don't need to take a shit. They don't know what's going on in there, and no one has asked me what was I doing in there. And I had a backup in case someone did ask me. I'd decided I was gonna nonchalantly say, I just wanted to feel my bollocks. That was going to be my comeback line. And then I would ask something general, change the subject, tell them what you're going to do for the rest of your day. How was the game yesterday? Did you watch the game? If you're into sports. So the best way to get into this kind of thing is to do it when you don't need to pee. So what you can do is, along with, say, because I've spoken about this, along with standing at the urinal and then before you leave getting into a cubicle, what you can also start doing is, when you don't need to pee at work or wherever, go to the toilets, get into a cubicle, stay there for a few minutes and don't flush. And if anyone asks you, what were you doing? You can just say, I needed a little bit of solitude. I needed to reflect on a few things. You can say it with a bit of a cheeky grin, or just make it a throwaway comment and then just go about your day. Just walk out of the toilets or ask something that's completely unrelated, and it will get you into that frame of mind that, you know, things move on. not specifically that life moves on, but the conversation will move on. People are too interested in themselves. They're self-conscious about themselves. If not about going to the toilet, they're self-conscious about something. So it kind of brings a little bit more ease around it, that okay, you know, people aren't really interested in what I was doing in there. It's me. I was hyper vigilant around the whole thing. So the more I got into this, the more I got into sharing, telling people I have paruresis. I told my mum, told my sisters, I shared it with work colleagues, I shared it with gym members, and I kind of grew up. I matured, and I wouldn't recommend sharing it with immature people. If you have immature friends, they're maybe not the best people to share it with, but I would have conversations with other mature adults about this thing. I was taking ownership of my paruresis. I'm responsible for dealing with it, for overcoming it, for finding creative solutions to it. And it just brings about this healthy acceptance, this healthy recognition that paruresis is a recognized phenomenon. It's being studied by college professors throughout the globe. It's a recognized phobia, just like any other phobia, claustrophobia or something. I think one of the things that makes it a sensitive topic, especially for men, is that it involves the sexual organ. It involves a man's manhood, but it doesn't have to be a reflection on your manhood. Going to the toilets and that muscle that's responsible for whether you pee or you don't, that involuntary muscle, whether that's tense or it relaxes enough to pee, isn't a reflection on your manhood. And if it is a reflection on your manhood, it's only due to the beliefs you have surrounding it. So graduated exposure work is a great way to start disarming it and start to dismantle some of these beliefs that you have around it. And part of that belief is this fear of people finding out. People don't care. As I've said before, people forget. I've shared it with people and a few months later I've mentioned it again to them and they've completely forgotten what it was. And I had to explain it to them again. So when we're fearful that someone may find out, when we don't want someone to find out about it, it inevitably creates anxiety around it. So this is a great way. You're not telling people you have paruresis by not flushing. A lot of people don't even know it exists. So I was speaking to a coaching client of mine, and I told her about my paruresis and the work that I'm doing, and she thought it was almost natural that you wouldn't be able to go stood shoulder to shoulder because she'd experienced it also in a cubicle. Girls also have this. So her perspective was, I'm not surprised you can't go with a guy stood shoulder to shoulder. So yeah, it's a bit of an advanced technique maybe. If you're just getting into this, best way to start by doing it is, as I've said, do it when you don't need to pee. So there's no pressure on you to pee. So you can do it. It's a little bit cheeky. That's how I recommend you approach this, because as you start to get confident, you do get a bit more cheeky. What do I mean by cheeky? You start pushing your own boundaries, pushing your own limits. You start seeing how far can I take this. I could never have imagined that I would be able to give a public talk in front of people, because what if I need to pee in the middle of the talk? What if I'm doing a talk and I'm bursting to pee? those fears kept me from doing certain things. So where I am right now and what I'm doing in my life, could have never imagined that I was able to do that. But you need to, it goes back to that, one of those first videos I made in module 1 is pushing through the fear is less frightening than the feeling of hopelessness, than the feeling of keeping yourself safe. Like say you're watching this video, for example, and you don't like the idea of not flushing. Not flushing, it's less frightening than holding on to the paruresis for dear life, not wanting a single soul to know about it. That's more uncomfortable than going in there, having a misfire, not flushing, and walking out there and going off into the world and going on about your day. Because that's what I'd do. I'd have a misfire, okay, misfire, don't cover my tracks, walk out. I carry on the conversation, and it's that practice of being present. I'm going to leave it there. Hope you got something from this video. Catch you on the next one.